presentation. I am Dr. Ferenc Karácsony, an integrative pediatrician and endocannabinologist, an expert in empirical medicine. I am a president of the Cannabinoid Medicine Foundation in Hungary and chair of the endocannabinology department at the Bioquantum Academy, Canada. Dear audience, dear colleagues, modern science discovered the endocannabinoid system less than 3 decades ago. To be more precise, it has discovered some molecular phenomena from which it has created the concept of the endocannabinoid system. The name refers to cannabis. It was through research into the active ingredients in cannabis that the realization that there is a receptor network in us that works in a similar way to the organ response elicited by certain components of cannabis. This function is determined by the activity of lipid molecules that are produced and broken down internally. The first two of these internally produced lipid signaling substances have been named endocannabinoids. Since then, many have argued that is it unfortunate to link this system to cannabis, as its function is far superior to the effects of the modulations induced by cannabis. Nowadays, the functional name of what we call the endocannabinoid system is becoming more and more popular as part of the homeostatic regulatory master system. The molecules involved organically have expanded. The new endocannabinoid is another fat-based signal transducer, pentadecanoyl carnitine, and the third receptor is the orphan receptor GPR55, which is not orphan, but cooperates with both CB1 and CB2 receptors in many ways. Research is revealing more and more new phenomena, and this also means that our hasty naming does not realistically reflect the place and role of these discoveries in the system that undoubtedly exists and dominates the control of homeostasis. The other great depth of modern science is the interpretation of homeostasis itself. The one-sided constricting molecular modeling of the last 100 years has left us with little insight into the whole, or if we do, it seems strangely complex. Many arbitrary models cross the threshold of evidence. It interpolates the evidence of the basic measurements to the whole, which is not only not robust and not transparent, but is contradicted almost daily by details that are not corrected for the whole. Seeing the whole without fabricating rigid hypotheses is not a simple task, nor is it just a matter of science. Man is not only an understanding being, but also a feeling being. His knowledge is both feeling and understanding. The written feeling understanding science of the previous 5,000 years is therefore difficult to decipher for the often exclusively understanding, but not understanding science of the last 100 years. Perhaps it goes without saying that the diagram presented, despite its appeal, is not a model that will stand the test of time in decades to come. Or biology is a hierarchy-based system, which is difficult to express in an infographic and has not been done despite the up coloring. What we can always do, however, is to observe, collect, and organize the observational data. Artificial intelligence is now a crucial tool for this, and it can also help us get closer to understanding organic intelligences if we have the scientific humility to do so. Once we understand that the organic intelligence within us is capable of more than we are, it becomes easier to understand that our task is not to cure disease artificially, but to let our master system of homeostasis unfold, which in turn, with its multiple potentials, can provide an intelligent solution to eradicate our diseases by restoring our inner balance and thus re-establishing health. We tend to disconnect the snapshots that seem important to us from the great process that goes on from our conception to our death. While for our organism, it is a single process. For us, the phases take on a life of their own. It hasn't been that way for long. Traditional medicine like Ayurveda with Samprapti shows the process by which health is disrupted. Ayurveda is a health science. It also pictures health as a process. It shows and distinguishes the phases in which death is gradually broken, which health is gradually broken. For a disease-oriented perspective, these phases are indistinguishable, whereas true prevention lies in this. By detecting early signs of homeostasis breakdown, we can take steps to restore the balance and avoid the onset of disease. In other words, nothing tangible will happen. Everything will remain within the broad bounds of health because we have been flexible in correcting the disturbance we have identified and preventing it from becoming too great. This prevention story is only visible to those who recognize the significance of small symptoms and are willing to take action to correct the discrepancies. The first four phases of Samprapti are not detectable to us. They are not visible to today's clinical diagnostics. Yet not only does it exist, but each phase has a characteristic that can be used to identify it once it has been recognized. The basic prescription is always to let the intelligence of what we call the homeostasis regulated master system, or in simple terms, the endocannabinoid system unfold. In contrast, the last century of medicine has been a furor diagnosticus. We named everything, whether we needed to or not. Separate diagnoses were made for the phases of the disease processes that are now known as a whole, and on the basis of today's evidence, separate protocols are recommended for these phases, with which these diagnoses can be treated. We do not treat the individual, but the diagnoses, which we define based on our instrumental diagnostics. This is not an option, but a mandatory clinical protocol. Thanks to advances in technologies, we also have a new testing method, the fall-like assessment. The electrical activity of our skin is not homogeneous. The median system differs not only in its electrical properties from other areas of the skin, but also in its CO2 emissions and many say it's temperature. Pulse electroacupuncture measures the resistive resistance and differentiated according to it. It can be used to measure current activity levels and subject them to further computer analysis. This can be done using thousands of years of background knowledge. The electrical characteristics of meridian points are systemic. The electrical behavior of each point is subordinated to the activity and tone of the whole meridian system. The meridian system also expresses all the oscillations of homeostasis. For experts, it is only by studying the meridian system that one can deduce the current state of homeostasis. We can define energetic indicators and ratios, which can be obtained by measuring the electrical properties of the skin, but which make it possible to follow the energetic characteristics of homeostasis, since we can repeat the measurements as we wish. It's also possible to know the circadian characteristics of the individual and the process by which he or she is trying to restore his or her own internal balance, receive any treatment, and follow any lifestyle rule. The stability of the meridian balance, the hierarchical order according to the theory of ideas, theory of Chinese five elements, characterize the homeostasis of the meridian system. However, if we reverse the statement, it sounds like homeostasis is also embedded in the manifestations of the meridian system. As in everything else, since the same force, the energy that drives homeostasis is manifested in the hormonal system, the immune system, metabolism, muscle balance, and the functioning of the system shown in the diagram above. Whichever system we study, we can be sure that the differences we recognize will be found in the other systems. But the series of analogies does not stop at this surface. They also apply to analogous surfaces. The skin is analogous to the cell membrane. The energy indicators observed in the skin are also expressed in the activity of the cell membrane structures. While on the skin surface, it is the meridian system that maps the energetic characteristics of homeostasis. The same is reflected in the cell membrane by its dominant receptor network, the endocannabinoid system. This is not to say that the meridian system itself and the endocannabinoid system are similar, but that they are subject to the same energetic control and their function is therefore synchronous. The ancient cultures told us that the projections of our energy body manifest in all our systems and that the energy body controls our homeostasis. The many subsystems that we are come to know are manifestation of this energy, and it is this energy that makes all the functioning of our being coherent. It would be worth a separate lecture to explain this. I mention it now only for the sake of easy of understanding the analogy. It also follows from this that from the analysis of the skin surface meridian point measurements, we can also infer the tone of the endocannabinoid system. More precisely, the activity of the endocannabinoid system in the maintenance of homeostasis. This is important information because it is the system that is first to be damaged by the gradual loss of harmony. If there is a loss of stability as calculated from median balance measurements, then this also applies to the stability of the endocannabinoid system. When the harmonic hierarchy of the Chinese five elements is upset, it also reflects the upset of the harmony of the endocannabinoid system. If these indicators known from median point measurements are improved, for example, through the use of well-chosen CBDOs, then the tone of the endocannabinoid system will also improve. Most people today live in a state of relative endocannabinoid deficiency. He or she does not know what a healthy state is, nor does he or she see examples of in his or her environment, as everyone lives in a similar state of deficiency. He or she also has symptoms, often compliance, which he or she has learned to live with. This condition can also be detected by a median balance measurement. Similar to the description of the Samprapti process, there are no diagnoses, but energetic characteristics to which we can assign symptoms and compliance during our observations and examinations. If we improve the stability indicator, the endocannabinoid tone will also improve. And we can track this improvement with a number of subjective and exact parameters, as we have done over the past decade, as these insights have been made. For me, the most impressive change has been the recovery from my own illness, which I achieved through medical cannabis treatment. My stability and the return of the fire element to a leading position came before the change in my symptoms. Through thousands of tests, I developed a model based on measuring meridian balance to track changes. I would have progressed more slowly if I had relied on my observations of others. I had been using full electroacupuncture regularly for decades before that, but I had not previously recognized that levels and changes themselves. I incorporated significant level differences marked by distinctive indicators into Shakti staircase system. While I have rarely encountered a completely healthy person, I have encountered those corresponding to steps 3 or to 4, even in cases where neither symptoms nor compliance were noted. He or she did, but he or she got used to it. From this, I found out that the regulatory system, namely the endocannabinoid system, is damaged first, and this manifests itself in various disturbances of homeostasis, which can be measured and characterized in many ways. Using questionnaires that can be analyzed by biometric methods, we can associate specific queries with measurements of meridian balance, which will allow us to follow more plastically the processes in this otherwise blind spot area when our homeostasis is upset, but we do not detect it with clinical tools. In my book, I explain this in more detail. I would also like to point out that during my illness, I recovered from phase 6, from which a return is rare. It is rare mainly because patients give up and their practitioners see no hope. But there is always a handhold from which one can jump if one has to will to do so. We cannot understand many phenomena, and therefore we should not think that we know what will happen. The endocrine system itself is an extremely plastic, fast, indefatigable system whose speed of operation is astonishing to us. Converting the picosecond timescale to our timescale, which is 1 second for us, is uh, 31,000 years for electrons and therefore for any change controlled system. So it takes us 31,000 years to do all that the system can do in 1 second. Even if we cannot grasp this, we can sense that a lot of operation fit into this time, and especially a lot of changes in the charge distribution that precedes and accompanies the binding of proteins and lipids, the activation of receptors, the associated configuration changes, and all the inductive processes that point towards the interior of the cell. The estimated intelligence of the endocrine system far exceeds in the IQ of the smartest humans, starting at a modest estimate of 600 and evolving. If the tone of our endocrine system is strengthened, our regenerative capacity can be increased up to sixfold. So it is not hard to imagine how we could recover from a big run with the right attitude. To summarize the conclusions that can be drawn from the analogy of the skin and the cell membrane, we can draw of the following. Skin and cell membrane are projections of the same energy field that represents life in our biology. The two superstructures move energetically in synchrony. We just need to find the energetic indicators in the skin. The meridian change their charge of as manifestations of the energy body, which we can now measure with very simple tools such as force impedance measurements. These phenomena may be debated, but in any case, there is a model for the impedance-based mapping of meridians that has been worked out in many detail and has been proven in practice. Analogical thinking suggests that the energetic behavior of the cell membrane is similar to that of the skin, but we do not have access to it with our measuring instruments. The dimensionless fractions of the meridian balance measurement can be used directly to describe the endocannabinoid system in the cell membrane in the analogical approach. These are stability, the hierarchy of Chinese 5 elements, the regeneration index, and PIE index. These indicators can be used to describe the current energy status of an individual and can be associated with symptoms, compliance, laboratory results, instrumental diagnostic parameters. I have developed a method for this, which I call constellation analysis. Improvement trends in CBD cures are easy to detect and have been confirmed by measurements. In the Shakti staircase system model, steps from a severely ill to a completely healthy state could be defined in terms of meridian balance ratios, which were used as a default recommendation for the dose of CBD oil-based therapy to be applied. It has since been shown that this monitoring system can be used to track all types of therapy. The advantage of this description is that it is not limited to the classification of pathological abnormalities, but also allows qualitative differences to be identified in conditions that are considered to be perfectly healthy. For example, for the construction of the peak form of a top athlete, this monitoring system provides a much more reliable reference than today's descriptive methods. And in patients, symptom clusters of internal ordering can be recognized when it is again a strategic question of what the next therapeutic action should be, and almost never as ingrained as in today's clinical practice. Returning to the Samprapti model, healthcare with monitoring of meridian balance in the first 4 phases also presents a distinctive picture. If we consider that the first to be damaged is the endocannabinoid system caused by today's lifestyle, chemical stress, mental emotional overload, electrosmog, then early therapies, what we call prevention, are primarily aimed at eliminating these disturbing factors. The point of reference is the exact measurement itself, which can be simply taken on the surface of the skin and reproduced indefinitely. Also, Ayurveda, in its own system of vision, has all the answers, and the good therapist does not need an instrumental assessment. Pulse electroacupuncture can confirm all that has been taught for thousands of years. The most important thing is to have a health picture. According to this, a healthy person is both stable and resilient. His or her life is joyful, content, and therefore capable of expressing the fullest love. The abilities of childhood return, which in adulthood are called special abilities, for example, telepathy. Those who do not suffer from deficiency are easily inclined to good, not envious, not jealous, not malicious, tolerant, not afraid, not addicted, quick to regenerate, energetic. The man of today is impatient. Not only does he or she not take enough time to learn, but he or she also wants to shorten the natural time for medical treatment. With this method, we can give anyone within 5 minutes a guide that will help them to orientate themselves and in a good way to be patient with themselves and their environment. Thank you for your attention.